Today is March 3rd, 2025, and today we are meeting Shaw. Shaw came through the beginning of July 2020 at the 3 to 4 p.m. hour. I have only an approximate date and time here today. My apologies for this, but in preparing for this particular session, I was unable to locate the first original frame of Shaw on my hard drive. It would have been too much work to go into my backup drive to find it. So today we just have the approximation. The closest date I have on my hard drive was the first frame I began actually working with Shaw, which is July 10th, 2020. Now, back in these days, I did tend to work with the frames the very day the transmissions came through. So it's likely that the date on this frame is July 10th. However, it could be a day or even a couple days prior. So I'll just give the general time frame of roughly the first week into July 2020. And I remember the day like it was yesterday, sitting down somewhere between that 3 and 4 p.m. hour to go into the crystal. We've jumped a full 5 months ahead again since the last major transmission, which was from Chiyo. We'll take a brief look at Chiyo here just to help us remember. If you haven't been watching the series or are seeing this video first, you can go back and watch the video where we're introducing Chiyo. And I will note here that Shaw is the last being to come through while I'm still living in the Alpine location. So he is who has closed off that particular time frame in my life. And in the next video, we'll upload the first being to come through in my moving process into my next new location. It is somewhat of a tendency of mine to move around quite a bit. So I'll just take a moment here to note that here now. Many beings are coming through at this particular juncture. In between the more major transmissions, more minor transmissions are coming through where the beings are just sort of more in the background. The frames are a lot more scenery and or much more multi-dimensional, where so many of the beings are coming through that it's not possible for me to work with the frames to bring one of them more out to the front. And again, we won't be meeting those beings or introducing those frames to you. There's just way too many, and things are about to, at this point, really kick up. I'll just go back for a moment into my reminiscence about sitting down to go into the crystal for this transmission. I'm bringing myself on this day to a point or a place in the house or on the property where I normally don't sit to work with the crystal because it's in a common living area. But I sat down on the sofa on a love seat, close to a particular window in the house where at that hour the sun just happened to be coming through quite brilliantly. And so it occurred to me to move my position to that window and to attempt the transmission from there. I'm noting this because this is the first instance of me beginning to realize or glean that in working with the sun and the sun's rays, transmissions such as this up close and personal, are more likely and more easily achieved. Now, I'll just note that for right now. Because that information does go into quite a bit more than I'm wanting to discuss in this particular video. So we'll just make note that it's in and around this time frame that I'm beginning to realize that involving the sun and the sun's rays in the work with the crystal is important, and how exactly it is that it brings through beings so much more easily, how the transmissions can mobilize themselves in a sense and make their way to me in a way that I can visually be aware of as arriving through the crystal. Again, in this more overt way, super important to what's about to come up next. So in mentioning this, I will also note here that this is, I think, the one and only frame where I ever out and out changed the filter or the hue of it. The original transmission came through in more of a sun or rust gold color. And at some point down the line, I can't remember exactly when, I just had the feeling that I wanted to turn it to a grayscale. And so I did. It really brought the being, I think, it through with more of an impact. But there's another reason I'm going to find even further down the line. I had the inclination to do this. At this point, I'm beginning to do what I've come to call rendering requests. And this is when I go into the crystal for others. And this is for the purpose of seeing if we can bring through even more contacts than when I'm just bringing them through for myself. So I will note that here, this is or was done as a rendering request for a gentleman named Jay. This is someone that I don't know very well. We know each other from an OBE group, so we do have the out-of-body experience in common, as well as a connection with Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute. Jay, even much more so than I, but these are the two things that connect us. And I feel that when going into the crystal allowed me to get this very clear transmission for him. This is fascinating. This person, Jay, also came through in one of the most stunning transmissions I've received to date, a 6D, 6 layers deep transmission that depicted my birth into this earth life. He appeared right up in the top corner of it. His last name at that time, I believe, gave some information because it refers to an ancient family or kingdom in Earth's ancient past. And his name is also the name of my eldest brother. There were multiple connections that happened, but I will note that there is some kind of stronger connection between this person and myself in some concurrent life somewhere in space and time, and all of this was coming through the crystal. So again, that connection, that level of connection is again what I feel helped me bring through Shaw this forward. Let me note that in doing the rendering requests, I really have no idea how it is the being that chooses to comes forward for this person. I am utterly unaware of the relationship. I don't know if this is a being from my template and just a species at which we meet, or if this is a being from their own template, or a being we both have in common to some incarnation, perhaps even this one. The detail that comes through to me on that is extremely limited because it's information I've never had the time to actually go in and explore and investigate. So that's a wide open arena. However, I do still do the rendering requests now and again. Sometimes I have the line open, sometimes closed, depending on what my day work or mundane life schedule is like at the time and how much time I have available. I will link you in the show notes to where you can find a page on all of that if one day you might like to put in a rendering request for yourself. It is something that I do enjoy doing because I feel it does bring through the greatest variety of contacts of beings, of species. And that's always been top on my docket to see how many of the species and beings we can meet that I can bring through to consensus. Sha is a corporeal, galactic level being who I feel is or may be a representative of the Yael. Now, there's not a lot I can say about the Yael other than what I have heard, and that is that they are the species or race that was created by some species of gray being. They used the human genome with their own to create this particular species, and it's said by some that the Yael are a high candidate for first open contact for our planet. I cannot validate any of this information at this time. Again, information I've never gone in for or sought to confirm. However, one day I may. So far, I've just been too busy doing what I have, and I will continue doing as much as I can. And as I continue learning more of my own information from my own inner being and higher fractal consciousness, I will, as always, continue to relay and share that information. Now, the reason that I feel that Sha is or may be a representative of the Yael is due to wait for it, a glass water bottle transmission that came through to me prior. Uh, this was spectacular. This is when the work was very first beginning, and the beings were attempting to contact me, transmit to me through a variety of different means. And I would notice quite frequently that they would do so in water droplets, my water bottle, and I carried a glass half-gallon water bottle. One day, at the very location in which all this work began in the Pacific Palisades in California, I'm getting out of my car, and this is high up on the hill. It has a fantastic view of the Pacific coast, and it is approaching the hour into sunset, which is the prime time for working with the crystal and getting these transmissions. And so I have the water bottle sitting for just a moment on the driver's side. And as I had opened my door and was reaching in for it, the sun's rays were striking the crystal. And I could see clear as day because of the large size of the water bottle that I was receiving something. And so I got out the camera and took the photo, and it was just fabulous what came in. It was a series or sequence of photos, one of which is I felt right away was highly likely a Yael male. He's in a country-like setting, and next to him is an enormous, statuesque, Olmec-like head. And then in the sequence of photographs that followed this, again, super interesting. And it's only that they came in at the same time as that one that I will even mention them. In fact, one in particular, just because of how surreal and the information in it actually is. So hang on here to your bootstraps. What we have in this particular transmission is what I call a cool frog with sunglasses, sitting on and with his legs dangling over the edge of the universe, quite literally. He has a totem pole of heads standing next to him and a light beam coming down on his left, within which is a very clear, a stunningly clear view of a Jesus-like figure in mid-stride. So what all of these symbols have in common, I have no idea. I'm just taking a moment to make note of them here because it's interesting in itself that they did or have all come through together. So I will just recede here for a moment now because this is a wonderful transmission and being with which to connect if you so choose. I'll just leave Shaw out here in front for you for a moment to see what you're able to feel or glean. If you feel any level of connection, of contact, and if you do, please do let me know in the comments what it is you are or may be experiencing as you connect with this beautiful, beautiful being. Okay, this was Shaw. We'll be back soon with the next being.